Ég er 57 ára
Já.
og ég hef hafið tiltekt innra sem ytra.
Vá, það er löngu tímabært, Dóra.
Já.
Þú ert alveg í rusli, bara alveg eins og ég.
Já. Í þessu podcasti ætlum við að byrja bara á bókaskápunum.
Já, því að bókaskáparnir segja mikið um hann, ekki satt?
Jú. Bókaskápurinn er spegill sálarinnar.
Okay.
Well, Dora, we have a guest that you've been waiting a long time to introduce to me.
Yes, because for everybody that is listening, we have now had already two teachers of Steina, Adi and Anna, and now we have Jared. That has been my I've been what did you say? Have you been coaching me?
Mentoring?
Mentoring me since June, once or two times a month, and
I'm not in the saxophone.
No, in my spiritual field, I would say. And he's the one that introduced to me the dark male, dark female, light male, female thing.
She has not been talking about anything else since she met you, by the way. Yes.
Yeah. And he also introduced to me this ego soul monad thing that I find absolutely
That
interesting.
she has tried to explain to me with not much success, but okay, I'm patient. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm very happy to have Jared here with us because now he can say something that I can't really transmit, but I would love to hear him say it so that people that listen.
And for those that don't know, Jared is a relationship and sex coach. No?
No.
No,
I mean, I have that background, and I was a couples and sex therapist for 17 years.
Okay.
But it's just a small piece
Okay.
of what I do.
Okay, what is your background? So people really get engaged because people like the
backstory.
The backstory.
Yeah. No, I started out, I went to school forever. I did 2 master's degrees and a PhD.
A master's in what?
I did one in couples and sex therapy, and I was licensed, and I started working basically as a mental health therapist, and then specialized in couples. Although I worked with children and families in the beginning a lot. I actually got burned out. I worked with sexual abuse in children way in the beginning, and it really burned me out. And I also felt the system was broken, and so I thought I need to go get a PhD. So I went to get a PhD, and I studied mental health part of the time, but then I got introduced to chaos theory and systems theory, which is basically the study of the connection of all things, including humans, including how it happens in couples and families. So it's found in the same school, and I ended up studying with like one of the top researchers in the world around systemic, dyadic, relational cycles and patterns. But then I started studying healthcare and business, and that led me to get another master's degree in international business. I studied in Mexico for a part of that and worked in economics, and basically I discovered that with all these things connected, you have relationships, you have environment, you have politics, and you also have economics. And so I had a real desire to understand all the pieces with the big picture of understanding change, transformation. So I've worked with entire countries, hospital systems, as well as couples and families, just any system to where we can intervene and engage in some type of transformation. I decided to become a professor, and I was that for about 17 years. And I mainly did that because it gave me plenty of freedom to do other things. So I started my own businesses, and I also did a lot of research and writing, published a lot, and had my own spiritual awakening around 12 years ago.
Okay, tell us about that, because this is where we enter.
No, I went mountain biking, honestly, in the forest of Oregon for a couple days, and was just in the beauty and drinking spring water and being in nature. And then I found myself in some hot springs with a witchy shamanic woman in the middle of the night under the full moon. It's like a movie. And she started sharing some things, and all of a sudden I started feeling things, and by the next day, some people call it Kundalini awakening, where your entire energy of your body is
Fuck,
just
I've been going
lit
through
up.
this all year. It's been like ridiculous Kundalini action going on.
Yeah, I had no idea what it was. I didn't have any access to that language.
Yeah.
But the next day I was like, whatever this is, I want it.
Yeah.
And it lasted for about 30 days for me. And I was just high on life. And it led me to discover some other avenues of wisdom and knowledge that weren't just in the head. I was very in the head. I was a scientist. I published. I did lots of, mental work. But this brought me in the heart and the body and just blew me open. And yeah, that was the beginning. And because it's hard for me not to
Lucky
ignore.
you to run into a shamanic woman.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a blessing. But yeah, I just started looking at different paths of wisdom and embodiment, really. Yeah, and that opened myself up.
But it's true that you have now in Iceland been working with individuals and couples. Right?
Yeah. No, I do.
And Dora, notably,
Yep.
a very happy student of yours.
Yeah, actually some pretty high-level people in Iceland, like number of CEOs and people in positions of influence, and then other people that are having an awakening of sorts, and all types. Yeah.
Okay, but I still want to hear more about the awakening.
What do you want to know?
What do you want to know?
I want to know, okay, you feel this Kundalini awakening for a whole month, and
Yeah.
you're like just like you're the king of your kingdom or something. Or what kind? I don't know. I don't think I've ever had a Kundalini awakening.
Yeah, it feels like everything is alive, like everything, like I'd never done any type of psychedelics or anything at that point, but it felt like a mushroom trip with not knowing what it was, but without the trippiness. Like it just felt like everything was beautiful. I was in love with everything. Like I was in full joy. My family thought I was crazy. Like what the hell is
Obviously.
happening?
When people are too happy, people think they're crazy.
Yeah.
I know, isn't that weird? When people are sobbing, it's like so understandable. But happiness is like dangerous.
Yes.
It's so
Yeah.
dangerous when people are happy.
I'm worried about her.
Yeah.
I'm so worried. She's so happy.
She's so happy.
Yeah.
But it's also very threatening when people are happy.
No.
Nothing is more scary than people that are
Okay,
happy.
so how did you integrate it into your life? This is like life is so. This is how it can be. So you get like a month of.
Yeah.
This is how this can be.
Well, there's some key pieces that were mentioned, like little seeds planted, like, okay, I don't know what that is. Obviously, this is part of this awakening of whatever this is. I need to know more. So I went down some different paths, and that was a journey. And that obviously led to additional joys and happiness and things, but also led to many challenges, facing myself and lots of deaths in the end.
You mean deaths of relationships, deaths of jobs, or
All
deaths
the
of way
above.
of doing things?
Yeah, I eventually had a heart failure, actually. So I went through 3 years of pure death, and the doctors couldn't find anything wrong with my heart. They said, we have no idea why you're experiencing this. Your heart's strong, your blood vessel, everything, no arteries plugged or anything. And I knew it was happening because I was going through another death portal. In the teachings I use, there's 3 deaths. There's the death of the head, there's the death of the heart, and there's the death of the body. And they all relate to a full death. But yeah, the death of the head can be deconditioning because of narratives and beliefs and things, how we see the world. And maybe that came from family or the collective or the society. And
Is that what you call the death of the ego?
yeah, it can be. Although the ego also includes the heart and the body. But the ego primarily for a lot of people, especially in Western society, is very head heavy. But the ego is all around fear. You know, it's what keeps us in survival. And there's nothing wrong with the ego. It's just the problem with the ego sometimes is it can be too in charge. You know, we need the ego.
Of course, yeah.
But if it's the one in the driver's seat all the time, then it's going to use a compass of fear to decide things, and that's not always the best compass.
When you talk about the death of the heart, what do you mean by that?
Death of the heart is how we see love for self and others. Like, for example, as teenagers, when we start to fall in love, and we might think it's supposed to be like a Disney fairy tale, you know, story, and that somehow a prince or a princess is going to come along and be my world and bring all the happiness. And we know, for those that are in the, you know,
Well,
farther
we met
life.
a shamanic woman in the woods, so sounds pretty much like a fairy tale to me.
Well, but yeah, you learn that love with the death of the heart is that no one can provide happiness or safety to you. That has to come from yourself.
From yourself, yeah.
And relationships are more about having someone to enjoy the journey with, rather than provide something that you're seeking that really should be sourced in yourself.
Yes.
So it's a death of the heart is a giving up of the old ways of love and wholeness that we thought. And it's a common, you know, all movies and music and things are talking about the death of the heart without knowing it.
Well,
you know.
and this idea is sold profoundly to us that, you know, we become whole through others, which is like
Exactly.
an absolute lie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's understandable. You know, we have a desire to have connection. So love is about connection, and it's connecting to ourselves and others and the world. And so, you know, there's the ego has a desperation for connection. Part of what we're trying to do is negotiate our ego and our soul. Our soul has a different understanding because our soul doesn't understand death. It's always been alive, and it doesn't understand separation. It's always been connected, but the ego does have separation. And so these two parts of us are learning how to live with each other.
Can you then add the monad to this?
Yeah. So in the old teachings, like from Tibet, like very old, there's this belief that there's three components or ways of life. And that is both inside of each of us and also in the world and the universe. And one of that is density, matter. And that includes our brain, you know, in terms of our own bodies, our brain, our organs, our, you know, our fears, our emotions, all that is part of the ego, or sometimes they call it personality. And then we have the soul, which is more subtle in the sense that the soul is more subtle energy, has lived a long time, longer than the body, that it has a component of, as we already talked about, connectedness and oneness, as well as technically we each have soul identity. We each have soul memory. But when we come to earth or in the body, we have a veil, meaning we forget a lot of that. And that's on purpose, because we're learning things that need us to forget the soul on some level. But then part of the journey is the ego, personality, remembering the soul, having soul remembrance, that we're greater than just a single life. And at the same time, the soul is learning how to be in density, how to be in body and matter, to understand the divinity of that. And then there's the monad. The monad is different than soul or ego, personality. The monad is kind of like the ocean of all things. It's life itself, really. So the soul comes from something. The body comes from something. That's
So
something.
source could be monad, could be source?
Source would be a good way to describe monad, in the sense that it is the source of all things. But the difference between source and monad is the belief is that we are also source.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
And so sometimes when we talk about source, we're talking about something outside of ourselves. You know, source, we came from source or whatever. But the monad is the ocean. We're source too.
Yeah.
So they compare it to the cosmos. They say that the personality ego is like Earth, and that the soul is like the sun, and that the monad is like the black hole.
Okay.
And so if you think of the earth as much smaller and not as powerful as the sun, you know, the power of the sun is like a million Earths. That'd be the difference between the body and the sun. It doesn't mean the sun is better than the earth, but energetically it's more impactful. And then a black hole is, you know, I don't know how many suns it is, but a million suns in a black hole. So it's much more powerful.
And is dragging everything towards it. So everything actually goes around the black hole.
Yeah, it centers, it's and also comes from it. We know that everything in our galaxy came from the black hole. So it's also kind of like source in that way. And then, you know, then you have all these symbols around like event horizon, which is the edge of the black hole where light can still escape. And also they talk about, you know, the earth orbits the sun, and if you ever have two suns that orbit each other, they'll eventually collapse and form a black hole. There's lots of metaphors and symbols in the soul journey of all these things.
Okay. Okay, you hear it. He
Yeah.
knows a lot. He knows a lot. Yeah.
I'm super excited.
Yeah. Can you, Jared? Because I don't want to do this without you going into the horizontal and vertical
Okay.
theories about the
channels.
yeah, the channels, the female and male and upper
Okay.
male and upper female and dark
Yeah.
male and dark female.
Yeah, so in some traditions, you know, even yoga has the chakra system. Different lineages call it differently. Even the Kabbalah and Judaism has it with the Kabbalah tree of life.
Yeah.
Eastern medicine. There's lots of names. These are all just words, but in general, we know that the spine and the body, with the nervous system and the brain going to our tailbone, is a vertical channel. It's a vertical channel of energy. And, you know, whether you use chakra systems or whatever, in the old teachings, they'd call the upper parts of the body light. And light doesn't have any morality tied to it. We're not talking, and the lower will be dark. But the dark, once again, isn't like the dark side of Star Wars. It's not bad. It's just different. And so light would be more tied to cosmos and heaven, you know, moving up. And dark would be more towards the earth. So sometimes they call this the father and the mother. Or sometimes they call this the sun and the moon.
Yeah, so earth is the moon and yeah, and the dark. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so there's different lineages that call it differently. Even in the Mayan, you know, there was reference, or even Egyptian, the sun was up here and the moon was down here. You know, there's lots of, once again, all these lineages kind of have similar beliefs. And the vertical channel has this belief that in order for us to be whole, in order for us to be natural, to be complete, to feel like we're truly being our full self, that love, light, and wisdom needs to be part of our life. And the dark does. Dark includes creativity, naturalness, primal, includes our sensuality, our sexuality, that both of these are important. And they marry in the heart. They sometimes call it the marriage of sun and moon in the heart. And so some people are very light heavy, and some people are very dark heavy, you know. And so the imbalance would suggest if you're very heady and philosophical and abstract and you're not really in your body, you need to come more down. If you're very earthy in your body, but you haven't really had a chance to go into the abstract, philosophical, heavenly, you probably need to come up. Some people also have issue with the heart, you know, meaning they actually might have a good connection to the light and the dark, but there's a fear in the heart, meaning, you know, we'll get to that in a bit, but the heart is about both self and other, meaning love for self, love for other. And if there's fear in the heart, we might armor ourselves from others because we don't want to get hurt, or we might overgive, you know, and
because we
lose
want to be
ourselves.
loved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that helps. That leads to us not loving ourselves. And so there's a balance
And being
there.
resentful and bitter
Exactly.
and upset. And
Almost all these channels, including the vertical channel, the heart ends up being the key, because if we have a good sense of love, then we actually love the father and the mother. We love the light and the dark. And just to clarify, there is, definition of dark that does include shadow and things that are more destructive, and there is that part of dark of society, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about creation dark, the primordial dark. That's the vertical. The horizontal is right to left or left to right, and even in acupuncture and Chinese medicine, the right side is yang or masculine, and this isn't gendered. We all have
masculine and
and then the feminine yin is on the left side. Masculine energy on the horizontal plane is the plane of this earth. It's paying bills. It's working, getting food. It's also playing and having fun. The masculine energy is the structure, is the going after, it's the setting goals, it's the seeking, whereas the feminine energy is the receiving, the allowing, the not knowing. And both are needed. We need structure, we need to go after things, and also we need to create and be in the new and discover what hasn't been before. And both are needed. And once again, if someone's too masculine in their energy, they can be a little OCD, they could be a little rigid, they could be a little controlling. And if someone's too feminine, they could be a little chaotic. They could, be so flowy that they don't know where they're going to get money or how to survive. And so both are needed. And then when these two come together in the heart, that was the original meaning of the cross, actually, was the balance of the vertical and the horizontal in the heart. In the heart. And there's a third one, I'll get to that, that goes straight through, and we call that the transverse, because we're 3D, we're 3 dimensions. But this is where the vertical and the horizontal can start to create like a quadrant, where you have light masculine, light feminine, dark masculine, dark feminine. And the idea is that every being has all 4 energies. And there's a need for these energies to be nourished. We need these energies to be fed. If they're malnourished, they either feel avoided, repressed, even villainized sometimes. But the reality is, even if we pretend we don't have one of these energies, that doesn't make it go away. It still is there. So it's better to be conscious. Conscious meaning be aware. And if we're aware, then we can actually utilize the energy. So each of these energies have healthy and unhealthy aspects.
Of course,
So for example, light masculine. If you think about light masculine, light is upper. Love and wisdom, intelligence, and masculine is going after. It's doing something. So love and wisdom doing something is a very giving energy. It's a very nurturing. It's actually the energy that society supports the most. So getting good grades in school, climbing the corporate ladder,
doing what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Preparing food for your children so they have food in
Well, I've
school.
completely stopped doing that. They've starved for a year.
But that's needed. But we know that if that's the only energy that we do, what's going to happen? Well, we self-sacrifice, we martyr, we don't have access to so the dark is about our passions and our love and our beliefs. So for example, dark masculine is still going forward, it's doing something, but the dark is something that is more primal, it's more something that is important, meaningful to us. And when we have that combined,
like desire driven?
It can be desire, it can also be belief. Like, for example, I know Iceland has a lot of beautiful stories about women's rights. That was dark masculine, which is interesting they call it that. But it's taking this belief and doing something. But sometimes if we use dark masculine, without heart, if I'm doing it for my own gain or because of revenge, then dark masculine can become very destructive.
I know.
You know that.
I have a little bit of experience with it. Well, I'm getting better, though.
Yes.
I'm getting so much better.
Yes.
But the thing about the dark masculine is we need it today. The dark masculine is the only energy that's strong enough to tear the old towers down.
And I believe that the time that we're living in, a lot of women, women that have, professional women, have experienced that being too much in dark masculine.
Yeah, well, and this is where
or think they have had to do it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And this is
And again, without heart.
without
I
heart.
mean,
Without-
I mean,
yeah.
this is where our lesson is. I mean,
Yes.
we should be all energies with heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the heart gives us the chance to have love for self, other, and the planet. Because oftentimes people believe there's a choice. Either I self-sacrifice and help others, or I focus on me, but because I need mine, I need to protect myself. But obviously that leaves others out. And this is the third channel. The third
Okay,
channel
yeah.
is the transverse. It's self and other, knowing that you can balance both, just
Yeah.
like you can balance masculine and feminine and light and dark. And so dark masculine, when you have self and other, as well as masculine and dark together, becomes an extremely loving, powerful energy. It says, we need to tear this tower down, not because I'm necessarily hateful or revengeful or angry. It's because it's done.
It needs to be done.
It's complete.
Yeah, it's a really good energy when you need to get things done.
Well, and just to be not just done, but say this system is done.
Yes, exactly.
This way of being is done.
Yeah.
And that's in myself too. For example, you can dark masculine yourself and
Yes.
say, it's time for me to be done in this arena.
So
Yeah.
you mean it's like a dark masculine thing to say, to quit a job and say, this
Absolutely.
is done.
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
done with this job.
It might not be logical. The logical light masculine thing might say, well, my retirement and my 20-year plan is not fitting, but the dark masculine says, screw that, because deep down, I know this is done.
The tower has to be torn down.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, this is beautiful. I love this.
Yeah.
The dark feminine, because I'm very interested in the dark feminine.
Dora really wants to go into the dark feminine.
Yeah.
Well,
She wants to be naked and wear corsets all day long.
that can,
that
can be
it's
dark
not so
feminine.
secret desire, obviously, anymore, because of my big mouth. But like, but you have been talking a lot about dark female.
I mean, it is it seems to be the only thing you can think of where I go out of line is to be naked somewhere.
Well, I mean, there is something to that, because dark feminine energy at the core is creation energy itself. It's the
Yes.
purest creation, and so we're born naked.
Yeah.
And we're born wild. We're born with blood and sweat and tears. I mean, it's not a pretty princess bow. Dark
No,
feminine.
childbirth is no fun.
No, and yet it's one of the most beautiful things that brings life. It's the paradox.
No, but the dark feminine, yeah, like you were saying, women hold the key to creation because we procreate.
Yeah, in body form especially.
Yeah.
Now, all male bodies and female bodies both have creation energy.
Yes.
But because we have physical bodies, it comes out in different ways.
Yes, yes.
And creation energy actually oftentimes comes before the dark masculine. So what will happen is the new idea, the new way, the what's wanting to birth will start to happen with the dark feminine, and then the dark masculine will do something about it. But we need the dark feminine to create. But the thing about creation is it's creating something that's never been. And so it's the opposite of light masculine. Light masculine is, this is the system, this is how we do it, this is the matrix, these are the rules. Dark feminine says, screw that. This is something brand new. And so for some people, dark feminine can be quite scary because it represents something that's never been experienced before.
Yeah.
And at the same time, if we want to innovate, create, whether it's transformation, whether it's creating a new company, whatever it is, you have to have dark feminine, or we're just going to go round and round and round chasing our own tails.
Yeah.
We need dark feminine. And at the same time, if dark feminine was the only energy, we'd be in chaos all the time.
Yeah.
So this is where the balance of all four energies are so important. And we don't get biased. If we have fear around any of these energies, then it doesn't go away. It just leaks out in ways that we don't want to.
Yeah.
So the dark feminine that's not embraced in someone's life, it will start to create chaos in your life without you wanting it.
Yeah.
Because it's trying to create, it's trying to do something. But if you can be aware, if you can be conscious and take that creative energy and do something with it, with the dark masculine, it's a beautiful thing. Light feminine, we haven't talked about that one. Should I
No.
mention that one real quick?
Yeah, of
please.
course.
So once again, I just want to remind feminine on dark feminine and light feminine has nothing to do with female body.
Yeah.
We all have these energies. But light feminine, once again, is light, upper, wisdom, love. And the feminine is this allowance, it's this surrender. So the light feminine is a very surrendering energy. It's also quite innocent. Oftentimes it's considered
And
childlike.
trusting.
Yeah, absolutely. Very childlike, very playful.
Yeah.
I think my clown is light feminine. Barbara, she's,
Even her voice is here, you know.
Yes.
you know, and she's very philosophical and very loving, and there's no sexuality in her.
No, it's going to be love, light, and wisdom. And, you know, there's
There
different
can still
archetypes.
be sexuality in light female, right?
No, her anything
So the
else.
sexuality is going to be in the dark.
Yeah, okay.
And so someone that's light feminine oftentimes will be like an innocent maiden, like more romantic.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, the romance is in
Tora.
light feminine.
Yeah, I'm more an innocent maiden.
Would you say I'm an innocent maiden?
No.
But, you know, each of these quadrants, light, masculine, light, feminine, woo, you good?
Yeah,
I'm good.
But I spilled one drop on you.
I'm
sorry.
okay.
Okay.
You're just being a little dark here.
Oh, okay.
A little messy.
Spilling a little dark cacao on you.
Yeah.
But each of these energies has archetypes too. You know, so for example, the light feminine archetype can be like the maiden, but it can also be the magician, the mystic. It can also be like Kuan Yin, Mother Mary. Jesus is light feminine.
Right.
Yeah, very loving, very giving, but he's not very structured. You know, he's pretty open.
Do you know what's your strongest godhead in human design?
Say it again.
The godheads in human
godheads.
design. I wonder if you have a lot of Jesus in you.
Do I have a lot of Jesus in me?
Yeah, we have to look at his chart.
What,
The godheads. So which gods entities are most prominent in his chart?
I don't know. I've never looked.
So I have most of Jesus in mine.
I don't.
I don't even know how you look that up.
No, it was in some.
No,
app
it
that-
is in our app. We'll look it up
yeah,
later.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I have a human design that you'll never meet again.
6'3".
6'3" heart manifester.
Yeah.
I've never met one in my whole life.
Yeah,
Well,
he's a
listen.
6'3", that means he's not yet 50 years old. He's not yet 50. So he's still a role model that is, this is why he has all those careers. He's just like getting careers and careers and careers and trying out this and trying out that and da, 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 da. And when he's 50, he's just sitting in it authentically. Being a 3 all the time, you can't teach him anything. He has to learn it all by running into all the walls. He will be like, and still being a manifestor. So he's like very independent in his thinking and the way he goes through life.
And
He's
then
a
the
very nice-
heart
yeah, and then the heart.
is very penetrating through the heart.
Yeah, like you, because Steinar has also an ego authority,
Oh, you have an ego authority.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Very
manifestor
good.
ego authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for those who are listening, and I know Dora, you've done private lessons with Jared, and you and Nico have also met him. So what is it that people come to you for?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's for their soul journey. It's
Yeah.
their spiritual, and when I say spiritual, it's not religious.
Yeah.
It's more from this perspective of how do I want to be natural and whole. Those are the two things I really focus on. What I mean by natural is, every person has a unique body. Every person has a unique soul. You have your own soul journey that no one else has.
Yeah.
And then the monad, life itself, moves through your soul, through your body. And I'm very much into, so the name of my PhD was called Human Ecology.
Okay.
And it's chaos theory and systems theory and connection of all things. But I bring it up because I look at humanity, the planet, which is very much my work area, global, as a forest of humans. And the best way for peace and harmony to happen on this planet, which I hope we're moving towards, I feel like we can, is for each individual to naturally, wholly play their part.
Yeah.
That if you're a tree, I need you to be a tree, not a bush, not a river, not a rock.
Yeah,
I need you to be you. And it's going to be something different from everyone else. But by you playing that natural whole part, it helps others do the same. You doing that invites others to do the same.
Right.
And if you imagine everyone naturally, wholly being themselves, that would create perfect harmony,
It would be so much easier, right?
Yeah. And the soul's journey goes through different phases, different parts of this process to eventually become their natural whole self. And so what I do is help individuals, couples, groups, organizations, countries, collective, wherever it is at, become whole, become natural.
To be the tree.
Be a tree. If I talk enough about it, I'll cry because it's so important to me.
No, I
Yeah.
do understand.
Please
Yeah.
continue. I don't want to see you cry, but I see. But I already see that there's tears
She's
in
an
your
actress.
eyes.
Of course she wants to
Yeah.
see
Yeah, I
him
want to
cry.
see him cry.
She wants some
No,
drama.
I want to
no.
hear you go deeper into
Mm.
your mission.
Yeah, you know, the old teachings say you have to fall in love with something deep enough to be able to have the courage to move through the fears and challenges of whatever comes. This is something I've fallen in love with, is the universe, the God, goddess, whatever you want to call it, of each person. That every single person has the potential to create, to become a creator.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, you know, I was talking about this right before I was getting on. It's not a selfish thing, and it's not a selfless thing, because if you play your natural part, it helps everything. And playing your natural part brings you the most joy too. And so it's both something that's going to bring you joy and wholeness and help the world. It's both. And I have this deep love for people to understand, that's the crown, to feel in their heart, and to embody that you're okay, and you're more than okay. You're needed, and not just needed, you're celebrated. And if we can only access the beauty and naturalness and wholeness of who you are, and you fall in love with that and allow that to express, I need that, we need that, please do that. So that's my joy, helping people do that. Yeah. I'm going to take a breath.
Wow, thank you. This was beautiful.
No, I mean, that is the most important thing. To kind of come home to oneself, right?
Well, that's a paradox, because coming to yourself always is also coming to others. Yeah.
Of course, and changing
Yeah.
your relationship to everything and everybody.
Yeah, and then, you know, a big part of the collective global process we're in as we shift, you know, that's another thing I do a lot, is look at the seasons of humanity. You know, in systems theory and chaos theory, there's a study called world systems theory where civilizations, humanity goes through spring, summer, fall, winter. It's every 20, 25 years. And we're going through another cycle. We're ending winter again, which means the next season will be spring, which is one of the most creative, beautiful times again. But the other thing that's interesting is we're also ending a 5,500 year cycle and a 12,500 year cycle, all in the same year.
Yes, I saw some astrological person talking about this, that it's like an incredible point we are at.
Yeah,
astrologically.
2025 has been predicted for a long time. And it's supposed to be a challenging year. And 2025 to 2050 is kind of the cusp of us moving into a phase, whether you want to call it New Earth or Golden Age or whatever it might be. But that means a lot of towers are going to fall, a lot of systems are going to fall. But the reality is, you know, a lot of us focus on the external, which is understandable. You know, politics, government, things impact us. The reality is the best way to impact the global, the systems, is to actually go inside.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm upset with how light masculine the world is, you know, too rigid or whatever, and not open to new, well, I hope I'm not too light masculine. If I'm too rigid and I'm complaining about that, there's not much I can say.
Are you too rigid, Dora, in your life masculine? Dora, are you?
I don't know if that's a yes or no.
Well,
I'm not going to answer this. You know the answer.
I'm so sorry, my co-host is so weird. But I'm gonna dive deep in.
Yeah.
So I am like very passionate I'm in a new relationship that I've been in for a year. And that has been like extraordinary, like physically and emotionally and spiritually for me. And I'm 56 years old. And I am, a part of me is like so frustrated about how sex has been distorted and demonized and weaponized in the world.
I can also cry about this one.
Yeah, and because, and you know, I can admit that for me, it seems to me that it is very important that mankind remembers again that sex is part of being healthy. It is a health system. Sex is healing, and sex is a part of our health. And I'm just wondering when I'm talking here with you, because there's been like a lot of debate about how to talk about sex to children in schools. And there's like, you know, and then we had like Me Too, and then whatever is called wokeism, and like introducing everything to children at an early age and like opening them to all the possibilities of genders and all of that. But I'm wondering whether we should talk about masculine and feminine much earlier.
Absolutely.
I think we should talk to children about this when they're very young. Because, you know, I have 4 kids. You have tons of kids also, Dora.
I have 4.
Yeah, and you have 4 kids also? And I think it would be so important if we learn to understand these forces inside us, and that we learn to understand that the life force, the energy, the chi, or whatever, you know, religion has called this force, is also the sex drive. It's the same force. It's like where we put our energy, how we manage our energy in the body. And I think we should start doing that in schools with kids, talking about masculine and feminine, and how can we, you know, like get rid of, like not get rid of, but like how can we go back to claiming sex for our own good and the beauty of it, and you know, and get out of this distortion, because it's so hurtful. And,
It's very hurtful.
and it's incredibly debilitating for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I can say this here because, like, you know, this is like, you know, only our subscribers will hear this episode, because that for me, that is like a sexual abuse. I was like sexually abused as a child, and then I was raped as an adult twice. And I've been in therapy for years, like with psychiatrists and shrinks, and I've done EMDR and all of that. Nothing. And this like came out of the blue. Nothing could have surprised me more than meeting a man so late in life and getting so much sexual trauma healing out of the relation that I've had with him. And the recovery that I have done physically, just like in the closeness with my boyfriend, has been nothing less than like dramatic and like so revealing. And it's made me cry of fury, of like, why the hell did I not know this?
Yeah.
And why the hell aren't we talking about this way? Because, you know, I had done lots of healing, like with shrinks and psychiatrists, and talked my way out of things and like la 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 la. But like to physically experience things and go through sex into trauma, sometimes voluntary, sometimes involuntary, because shit happens between 2 persons. And I'm like, you know, this has been the craziest year of my life. So I'm like, you know, I really want us to, I want like all my fellow women to know what I've been going through. And I'm like so eager, but I have no words for this. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
What do you say?
What do you say? Rambling women. Rambling
No,
women.
it's such a big
Because you
topic.
told me you had worked with sexual abuse victims
Absolutely.
back in the day.
Both male and female, and so I kind of want to go from it from a different angle first.
Yes.
Because from a very large, macro, global energy way of looking at it, the energy of sexuality is actually the energy of the mother.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about, and I'll cry about this too, you know, we've villainized sexuality, but what we've really villainized is the mother.
True.
We villainize the
Men
earth.
hate the fact that we give birth. They just can't get fucking over it.
It's not the mother of the female body,
No, but that also though.
but women also have a deep villainization for the mother.
Yeah.
And because we focus so much on the father, nothing wrong with the father. You know, the cosmos, light, wisdom, God, that's the father. Earth, sexuality, raw body, that's the mother. And it's been villainized. And so to me, this period of the planet that we're in is a reclamation of the mother, not the female mother, although that's included, but it's the mother energy in all of us. It's our connection with earth, with body, and
With growth and nurturing and
that, and rawness, and primal, and messy, and everything that is density. And that includes sexuality, and that everything here is just as divine as everything here. Everything in body is just as divine as you know, everything out. And so reclaiming sexuality is really about reclaiming the mother energy in all of us and in the world. And what that looks like is really coming back to our bodies. And you know, you talked about how to do this with children. Yeah, it's teaching that the crown and the body, the light and dark, they're both beautiful. And obviously there's age appropriate ways
of course,
to do
of
this.
course.
But the reality is we are very focused on success and climbing the ladder and getting good grades and staying in line and making sure we follow the rules. It's a very father energy, not gendered, oversaturation. And the mother is actually about chaos and allowing and mystery and not knowing and flow. And for this to happen, all our systems have to change. We have to have more balance between control and structure and flow and mystery in schools, in politics, in ourselves. You know, how much of us are so rigid in structure and OCD on our own lives that we can't even breathe, let alone allow our bodies to feel pleasure or to feel reclamation or love. You know, the reason in sexuality, like when I used to do sex therapy with couples, the most common reason a male body or a female body would have issues is they can't let go. They're so tight that they can't lean into the allowance of the body and surrender. The male has performance anxiety. He wants to do a certain way because he was told sexuality looks like this, to be a man looks like this, to achieve looks like this. What if it was allowed to let go and he could just be his natural self? And sometimes that means he's erect and sometimes he's not. And sometimes he orgasms and sometimes not. And all is divine.
And all is good.
All is good. And the same with the woman. She can have a voice and she can surrender and she, you know, whatever it is. That there's no thing you have to be. That in and of itself is 90% of the issue.
Yeah.
You know, and allowing people to once again relax and know that you're okay. And that's a bigger issue of relax and know that the earth has you. The mama's here, that she wants you to be happy, but also that includes the happiness of the raw, the messy, the unknown, the mystery, which represents that mother energy.
Oh my God, we all have to accept that we're all everything.
In a good way.
in a good way.
It's
you
a
know,
beautiful
it gives
thing.
us all the possibilities. We can be whatever we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The permission to be messy is a beautiful permission.
Yeah.
It can be fun to roll in the mud.
I think I've rolled in the mud for the most of my life. I would really like to be like on the pavement now.
You mean you would like to be me for a while?
I would love to be you.
Yeah, be more of a light male organizer or
Yeah.
something, but you are also a light male. I mean,
Yeah.
you've holded your family and
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. But, like I'm bored with it now.
Yeah.
I just want to be really messy now. I just want to like do something fun every night.
Þú veist að ég hef verið að áskrifanda eldur rétt, alltaf svona öðru hvoru og það hefur algjörlega bjargað lífi mínu.
Ég hef eins og verið að elda rangt allt mitt líf. Ertu að segja ég er að fara að elda rétt?
Ég myndi bara mæla með fyrir
Já.
manneskjur eins og okkur sem að nennum ekki út í búð alla daga.
Ég verið bara leiðar á því að vera húsmæður. Við bara
Já.
segjum þetta alveg bara eins og það er.
Já.
Veistu það, ég er rosa til í þetta, Dóra.
Já.
Og þetta kemur bara heim og alveg bara, maður bara fylgir einhverju, getur maður ekki gert það hálf sofandi?
Jú, maður getur gert þetta sofandi.
Já,
Eldum
geggjað.
rétt, eldum rétt. Ég segi bara, eldum rétt.
Dóra, sjáðu,
Hvað?
sjáðu.
Já, sjáðu.
Langflottasta gleraugnabúðin.
Sovereignty and freedom is, when all energies collapse on each other, light and dark, masculine, feminine, self and other, you create the still point.
Já.
It's the eye of the storm, to where at that point you become creator and sovereignty becomes your best friend. Because then you can choose, if I need to light masculine the shit out of this, I bring it in.
Yeah.
This is
If I
what
need to
want,
dark
yeah.
feminine, I bring it in. It's not something that's being, designed by my fears or my woundings.
No.
And this is
I'm
what
choosing.
and I think this is what you would like in a relationship, because you
Yes.
get all those practices when you're in a relationship. Because it is like if your partner is very dark female, then it wakes up your light male, So you have an opportunity to balance out and meet in the middle, or like, am I being clear?
Well, you
it's like,
can take turns in playing different parts.
yeah, playing different parts, but in the end, you must want to be in the eye of the storm, just in the middle.
Yeah, and for example, in a sexual relationship, a light masculine version of sexuality would be very giving, very nurturing, giving a massage. But if you're giving massages every single time, that's going to be boring.
Yes.
And you're going to get sick of that.
Yeah.
And other times, the dark masculine is more primal, it's more animal. It's like, let me take you and eat you and devour you. That's also great, but if you do it every time, also not so great. And the light feminine is more of a surrender, take me, devour me. But we can't have that unless the dark masculine energy comes in. When I was working with couples back in the day, the most common scenarios, I'd have two light masculines, two people that want to give. And let me massage you, let me massage you, let me kiss you, let me kiss you. There's no spark. And it becomes dead. You have to have the polarity of the tension.
Yeah.
But the center of the still point allows us to take turns to play in each of these
Yeah.
energies.
Einmitt.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I have for decades have like a very explorative relationship with shame
Shame, yeah.
and sexuality. And then it came to me the other day, you cannot take shame completely out, because there's like fun to have a little bit of shame in there. So you have like these boundaries to cross and go back into and go into the kind of shyness and stepping out and breaking barriers and all of that. And it's kind of interesting, because I was like, I had like some months I was like, I'm through with shame. And then I was like, and there came a time there was like, okay, now it's like everything's like in such good flow between us. And then there was something missing. And I was like pulling back in threads of like shame and destruction, but like flavors when you're cooking. So it's like
Alchemy, like alchemy.
Yeah, like, and I was thinking, because when I cook, I go into a yogic state of like just trying things out. I can never make the same dish twice, and my kids are furious about it. Can you make that? I cannot. And it's the same in sex. When you're in sex, you can like pull in threads of like putting this a little bit of cinnamon and a little bit of chili and like the traits of like destruction or shame, because it's sometimes it's energetically kind of fun to
Yeah,
play
yeah.
with these
and
you know,
sexuality, the
aggression or all these
the horizontal channel in sexuality is what we call conscious kink. That's what you're doing. The vertical channel is tantra. And so I'm always teaching both. You have conscious kink, which is playing with polarities, tensions, and it's using shame, embarrassment, shy, not as something that we villainize once again, because once again, that's part of the mother. You know, it's part of the raw emotion, messiness of what the world is. But rather than pretending we don't have it, we actually utilize it. It becomes a source. But as long as we do it consciously, meaning we're aware of it, it can be a great tool. And the same with the tantric channels. The light and dark is where you can bring the animal versus the care. The horizontal, you can you can bring the tension of dom sub, for example, or primal play, predator prey. You know, there's different ways to do it. And shame becomes the just an ingredient that can be passed through all of them.
So the archetypes you were talking about, you only started to talk about the archetypes of the light female. So in the archetypes, you maybe bring in some of these energies.
Absolutely.
So what are the archetypes of the light male, and dark female?
The light masculine would be like mother, father, king, queen. Those are traditional archetypes of the light masculine. The dark masculine would be like the sacred rebel, the warrior, the adventurer, the risk taker, the catalyst, the devourer. It's an energy that's powerful going forward. The entrepreneur is the dark masculine too. The dark feminine, oftentimes called the seductress. You know, the dark feminine is different. It's bringing energy in. It's seducing. It's calling it in. Kali sometimes is referred to as dark feminine. But it's really any type of energy that says, this is my desire, come to me. It's sometimes called the Venus flytrap. You know,
The
Venus flytrap.
With the fly, come fly, okay, I'm going until I get you, type of thing. So in sexuality, obviously, dark feminine can be very fun, with seduction and bringing people in. Like if you do conscious kink, a lot of people will practice role playing, and they might for 10, 15 minutes take on a dark feminine archetype with a light masculine. And most of my people loved doing medieval role playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's so far away. It's like a fremdum effect, like in the theater, like Brecht.
So you could have like a bar wench as a dark feminine, and a priest as a light masculine. It's two extremes. The very good, proper priest, and the bar wench seducing. That would just be an example. And obviously that you can switch with male, female archetypes with that too. Or the dark masculine, light feminine would be like, I don't know, like the Black Knight rebel and the princess maiden. Those are, but you're using extremes.
Yeah, I would have to practice this because there's some clean energy in it that for an actress it is I access it too complicated, like something like this, because I did one session with Jared when we were playing this, and I had to exit the exercise because I confused it. I couldn't enter it.
But still, in our work in theater, Tora, I think we've played with all these elements.
Yes, we have.
And like with ease.
Yeah.
So why is it so complicated in the real life? Because I was like, thinking about this the other day. Because for a long time I had no idea why we were actors, and then I understood why we're actors, because actors are important on the earth. They hold a remembrance for everybody else, to remind everybody that watches theater that we can all become whoever we want to be. That's what a actor does in the world. And also for people to remember themselves, to sense emotions, and like, I feel something, and that's all there is needed, because a lot of people don't feel anything for days and months. And when they finally feel something, it's not because of us, it's because they remember themselves. They remember that they have a heart. And theater is living in the moment. you know, if you blink an eye, if you go to the bathroom, you've lost it, it's never going to be repeated. So we're veterans in being in the moment, on the stage, you know, responding to whatever is coming there, and you know, why? And then this is what we're trying to, you know, kind of do in our regular life, and it's not really so easy. We just have to act in life.
It's like Shakespeare says, you know,
Yeah.
the stage of
All
life.
the world is a stage.
Yeah.
And so we just have to act in life, act who we want to be in every day. To
Well, and
stay
it's
in the
interesting because oftentimes the directors, producers of our life start with our parents, with our families, and so we get put in certain roles. And oftentimes these parts of ourselves, dark masculine, dark feminine, especially the villainized ones, the ones that are tied to the mother, once again, that need to be reclaimed, they oftentimes get put on pause because we grew up in families of religion or parents that, no blame, I'm not suggesting any blame, it's just what they grew up in too, that suggests the way to be a successful human is to be light masculine. And so we're going to focus on that. And thus we never, like going back to the sexuality and the things we need to talk about with children, you know, we need to give access to all these energies.
Yes.
From very young, so they don't get stuck in a role, in a part to play that's actually not fully them. And so what happens in older life is we realize, oh my goodness, I've been following this certain role, this certain part, and yet there's so much more of me. Where theater and things like that gives us tastes within a container for a moment, and I agree, it gives people a chance to remember, to prick their hearts, to say, maybe this part of me needs nourishment too, needs aliveness. But to go through that, we're going to have to go through fears. We're going to have to go through letting go of family expectations, society expectations, and those are challenging, you know. And eventually we let go of all the masks and the roles to once again become that natural tree, that natural self, or whatever we are, which includes all of it, you know.
I think we are coming to an end.
Wow. We have to get Jared again.
Yeah, we have to get him again. Yeah. And I was thinking, I know I have to listen myself to this podcast again. I want to listen to this part about the mother and reclaiming the mother.
Yeah.
I think this is something my body doesn't really understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I really want to listen to it again. I understood it when you know, I was like, okay, I look forward to listen to it. I'm going to listen up to the part about the mother again. How we as universe have to welcome the mother energy again.
Yeah, it's something that it's been happening for a long time. You know, even, you know, I'm not blaming anyone, but religion's been a part of it. And I respect a lot of religion still, but you know, there's been an emphasis on a different way, and unfortunately it's been at the expense of other ways. And we can learn a lot from the mother. You know, I say often that my greatest teachers now are trees and water. I just go look at them and feel them and talk to them, and there's much to be shown. Nature is such a good, beautiful teacher of what life can be. You know, look at this tree. There is direction, but there's also branches and there's unknowns, and both are needed. You know, and there's
And
seasons.
a lot of presence.
Yes.
Even in winter time, like, you know, when they shed, they're still very much
Yeah.
here.
They have their seasons of the year. They're together and they're separate. They have a root system with one another. They speak to one another, and yet they have their own identity. It's beautiful representation.
Jared, if somebody listens and wants to have a session with you, is that possible? Are you coming back and forth to Iceland?
Yeah, I'm coming less this next year, I've decided.
Okay.
But yes, and I also do stuff over phone and online.
Yeah.
But I always have a, what's the word? I don't know if warning's the right word. A disclaimer. That's the word I'm working for. I said, if someone wants to work with me, just know that your life will change pretty drastically.
Yeah, okay.
So if you're ready for that, I'm
yeah.
open to it. If not, it's probably not a good fit.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, a lot of people are up for the challenge.
Yeah. We are.
Thank you so
Has
much.
to be a big yes. Has to be a big yes.
Yes,
Thank
it
you
has
so
to be
much.
big.
I'm so
Thank
happy
you.
to meet you finally.